In 1992, a single man did the unthinkable. He took on the Bank of England, walked away with a cool $1 billion in a single night, and nearly brought one of the world's most powerful financial institutions to its knees. This is the staggering story of George Soros and Black Wednesday. The day one master speculator orchestrated the trade of the century. At the time, the United Kingdom was locked into the European Exchange Rate Mechanism, ERM, a system designed to keep European currencies stable ahead of the creation of the euro. Under this agreement, the British government was legally obligated to artificially prop up the value of the British pound, keeping it above a specific threshold. But while the politicians painted a picture of economic strength, George Soros saw a massive, fragile illusion. He realized the pound was severely overvalued, Britain's economy was in a recession, and the government simply did not have the financial firepower to maintain the lie forever. Instead of backing down in the face of a historic central bank, Soros decided to break it. He began quietly building an enormous short position against the pound, eventually risking a staggering $10 billion of his fund's capital on a single bet that the currency would crash. As word spread of his massive gamble, other global investors panicked and joined the sell-off, creating an unstoppable avalanche of financial pressure. On September 16, 1992, a day now infamously known as Black Wednesday, the British government hit the panic button. In a desperate, frantic bid to save the pound, the Bank of England began buying up billions of its own currency and aggressively hiked interest rates from 10% to 12% and then shockingly promised a raise to 15%, all in a matter of hours. It was a bloodbath on the trading floors, but Soros didn't blink. He knew the government was running out of ammunition. By that evening, exhausted and economically depleted, the British government admitted defeat, officially pulled out of the ERM, and let the pound plummet. As the currency crashed, Soros's incredibly bold gamble paid off instantly, netting his quantum fund an astonishing $1 billion in profit overnight and cementing his legacy as the man who broke the Bank of England. It remains a chilling reminder of a time when a single individual's financial genius and sheer nerve proved more powerful than an entire empire. The aftermath of that historic night sent shockwaves far beyond the trading floors of London, fundamentally altering the global financial landscape and the psychology of modern markets. While the British public reeled from the sudden devaluation of their currency, George Soros was instantly catapulted from a highly successful hedge fund manager into a financial myth, a man whose sheer market influence could rival sovereign nations. This dramatic victory forever changed how central banks operated. It exposed a critical vulnerability in government-controlled currency pegs, proving that no matter how deep a country's pockets seemed, they could still be drained by the collective force of global speculators if the underlying economic reality didn't match the political narrative. Interestingly, while Black Wednesday was initially viewed as a catastrophic national humiliation for the United Kingdom, history turned out to be a bit more ironic. Free from the suffocating constraints of the ERM, the British government was finally able to lower interest rates naturally, which actually sparked a massive, unexpected economic boom throughout the rest of the 1990s. Yet, the chilling lesson of 1992 remained permanently etched into the minds of world leaders. Soros had created the ultimate blueprint for aggressive currency speculation. Decades later, his high-stakes gamble stands as the definitive proof that in the hyper-connected world of global finance, belief is the ultimate currency, and when an individual with enough capital and conviction decides to call a superpower's bluff, even the oldest empires can be forced to surrender. This ultimate display of market dominance not only redefined global economics but also permanently altered the trajectory of European history. In the years that followed, the trauma of Black Wednesday left a deep psychological scar on the British political psyche, fueling a long-term skepticism toward European integration that ultimately sowed the seeds for the Brexit movement decades later. By proving that the UK could thrive outside of Europe's rigid monetary handcuffs, Soros had inadvertently altered the geopolitical map of the continent forever. Meanwhile, the man who broke the bank transformed his billion-dollar windfall into a weapon of geopolitical influence, shifting his focus from mastering the markets to reshaping societies through massive philanthropic networks, proving that financial power could easily be converted into historical leverage. Today, the legendary trade of 1992 serves as a stark modern parable about the raw, untamed power of capitalism. It stands as an enduring warning to central banks worldwide that artificial economic facades will always crumble when exposed to the brutal truth of the open market, and that in the high-stakes game of global finance, the boldest player in the room can sometimes rewrite the rules of the world. As the decades rolled on, the ripples of that fateful Wednesday transformed George Soros from a mere financial titan into one of the most polarizing figures of the modern era. His unique philosophy of reflexivity, the theory that investors' biases actually change market realities, became the holy grail for a new generation of aggressive hedge funds looking to replicate his legendary success. This shift birthed a hyper-aggressive era of global trading where no central bank, from Asia to Latin America, could ever feel truly safe from the crosshairs of private capital. Today, the ghost of 1992 still haunts the algorithms of Wall Street and the policymakers of London, serving as the ultimate case study in how quickly absolute power can shift from elected governments to independent masterminds. It remains a timeless reminder that in the grand theater of global wealth, the status quo is only an illusion, and the next single trade capable of bringing down an empire is always just one bold decision away. This legacy of vulnerability has only grown more profound in our current era of instant communication and algorithmic trading, where the speed of financial contagion makes the avalanche of 1992 look like slow motion. Today, with the rise of decentralized finance, digital currencies, and massive coordinated retail movements, the balance of power has shifted even further away from traditional institutions, making the financial world more volatile and unpredictable than ever before. Central banks now operate in a permanent state of high alert, fully aware that a modern-day Soros doesn't even need a Wall Street firm anymore, just the right narrative, immense leverage, and a hyper-connected global crowd ready to call a government's bluff. Ultimately, the legendary coup against the Bank of England was not just a one-time heist, but the opening chapter of a brave new world where economic sovereignty is no longer guaranteed by borders or treaties, but constantly tested, second by second, on the unforgiving battlefield of the global market. Looking ahead into this uncertain future, the true climax of Soros's century-defining gamble is not found in the billions won or lost, but in the permanent psychological shift it forced upon humanity's relationship with money itself. It completely shattered the ancient illusion that governments possess absolute control over their own destinies, revealing instead that the global financial system is a fragile house of cards held together solely by collective trust. As we navigate an era defined by artificial intelligence, hyperinflation, and shifting global superpowers, the lesson of Black Wednesday serves as the ultimate economic prophecy. No institution is too big to fail, no currency is too sacred to crash, and the next financial revolution will not be sparked by armies or weapons, but by a single audacious mind willing to look at a global empire and dare to bet against it. In this relentless clash of intellect and capital, the story of 1992 ultimately ceases to be a mere piece of financial history and becomes a timeless blueprint for power. It reminds us that behind the imposing limestone facades of central banks and the confident rhetoric of politicians lies a system vulnerable to pure, unadulterated conviction. As humanity marches deeper into a digital frontier where trillions of dollars can vanish at the click of a button and algorithms can trigger panics in milliseconds, the spirit of that historic bet is more alive than ever. George Soros didn't just break a bank, he tore back the curtain on the global stage, leaving behind a world forever looking over its shoulder, waiting for the next lone wolf to step out of the shadows and tilt the axis of global wealth once again. And so, the shadows cast by that historic night continue to lengthen, morphing into the very fabric of our modern economic reality where the line between absolute triumph and total collapse remains razor thin. This endless cycle of pressure and adaptation ensures that the game initiated on Black Wednesday will never truly end. It merely evolves, waiting for the moment when a new catalyst disrupts the fragile equilibrium once more. Whether through a rogue algorithm, a sudden geopolitical shift, or another solitary genius hiding in plain sight, the stage is perpetually set for the next historic reckoning. In the end, the ultimate legacy of the trade that broke an empire is the haunting, undeniable truth it left behind. In a world driven by numbers and narratives, the greatest risk of all is believing that any system is truly invincible. This inescapable vulnerability means that every investor, citizen, and policymaker is now an unwitting participant in an endless chess game where the rules can be rewritten without warning. The financial titans of the modern age no longer just analyze market data. They weaponize collective psychology, waiting for the perfect storm of public doubt to dismantle decades of institutional credibility in a matter of hours. Ultimately, Soros's audacious gamble was the definitive proof that the global economy is not governed by rigid, immutable laws, but by the volatile and fragile currents of human perception. It proved that real power does not belong to those who merely hold the wealth, but to those who possess the vision to see through the grand illusions of authority, ensuring that as long as there are empires claiming to be unshakable, there will always be a speculator waiting in the wings, ready to risk everything just to watch them fall. As this eternal dance between institutional illusion and market reality plays out, the true battlefield has shifted from the exclusive trading floors of London to the global digital network connecting us all. We now live in a hyper-real economy where information is weaponized at supersonic speed, and the threshold between national stability and chaotic freefall is narrower than it has ever been. The legacy of Black Wednesday is no longer just a chapter in a history book. It is a living, breathing paradigm embedded in every market fluctuation, every desperate central bank intervention, and every sudden, unexplained flash crash. It forces us to confront a chilling question that still hangs over our collective future. When a single conviction can rewrite the fortunes of an entire nation overnight, can any society ever truly be safe? Perhaps the ultimate truth uncovered in 1992 is that safety itself is the grandest illusion of all, leaving us to navigate a world where the next market-shattering wave is always building, quietly, just beneath the surface. Ultimately, this ambient anxiety has transformed the way modern society views wealth, power, and the very concept of the future itself. It has bred a new generation of global citizens who no longer trust the permanence of their institutions, choosing instead to live in a state of hypervigilance, always searching for the next safe haven, the next decentralized alternative, or the next paradigm shift. The trade of the century did not just deplete the vaults of a central bank. It permanently depleted humanity's collective faith in the financial status quo, establishing an unforgiving global arena where survival belongs only to the adaptable. As the global stage prepares for its next inevitable crisis, the specter of 1992 remains an open-ended question mark, reminding us that the ultimate master of the universe is never a government, an empire, or a bank, but the chaotic, untamable force of human willpower playing out on the grandest scale imaginable. Driven by this unstoppable momentum of human willpower, the final frontier of global finance is no longer being fought over gold or paper, but over the absolute control of reality itself. In an era where deepfakes, quantum computing, and generative networks can manufacture entire economic crises in the blink of an eye, the vulnerability first exposed on Black Wednesday has reached its absolute peak. We have reached a point where the distinction between a real market trend and a beautifully orchestrated illusion has completely dissolved, meaning that the power to manipulate public perception is now the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. As we stand on the precipice of this terrifying new dawn, the ultimate lesson of George Soros's legendary gamble echoes louder than ever before, leaving us with one final, undeniable truth. In the high-stakes game of human civilization, money was never the real prize. It was simply the scoreboard for an eternal war of minds, where the bravest, most ruthless visionary will always hold the power to bend history to their will. This absolute dominance of the mind over the machine means that the true successors to the legacy of 1992 are no longer found in traditional boardroom meetings or wearing tailored suits on Wall Street. Instead, they are the quiet architects of algorithms, the decentralized communities operating in the dark corners of the internet, and the rogue mathematical geniuses who understand that code and conviction can dismantle any superpower. The battlefield has become entirely invisible, a silent war of data and psychology where nations are attacked not with missiles, but with perfectly timed whispers that trigger catastrophic liquidations in fractions of a second. This is the world that Black Wednesday inadvertently birthed, a hyperfluid, borderless reality where the concept of a national economy has become entirely obsolete, replaced instead by a single, global, pulsating matrix of risk and reward. As the clock ticks toward the next inevitable systemic rupture, humanity is left with a haunting realization. We are no longer just passive observers of financial history, but cells inside a massive, volatile economic engine that can be permanently hijacked at any moment by anyone bold enough to seize the controls.